Angela, you've had a very tough healing journey, I know. So can you tell us a bit about that, please?
Well, I think what I'll do for you and your viewers is spare a lot of details, and I'm going to go to what was the most recent part of it first, and then we could always backtrack a little bit. So I think I was about 57 years old, I went back to school, and I went to massage therapy school, and it was in Miami, and it was a 2-year program. And so while in school, it was one of the times in my life where I had steered away from whole food, plant exclusive, and returned to what I was many years ago when I first transitioned from SAD to vegetarian. And what pulled me back in, what was the lure, was the pleasure trap food, cheese, coming from an Italian background. And I don't know about you, Jane, but in the Italian culture, we're fed and fed and fed for anything. It could be for something joyful. It could be for something extremely sad, you know? So I did find at times in my life, it wasn't a linear journey becoming plant exclusive. And there were some setbacks, and they usually correlated with emotional setbacks. And school came on the heels of the passing of my very best friend. And I was very much involved in her journey, her health journey. And I have to tell you that I have been involved that intimately many times over the course of the years. And each time I experienced the medical mill, I decided it's a good reminder for me. I don't want to go this way and be solely dependent upon the medical mill. So having said this, it was because of her and her she left me some monies, and I didn't know it, and I was able to go back to school. So while I was in school, that I was definitely I returned to vegetarian. And you know what it's like in school. Pardon me. You just eat a lot of junk and you're eating on the run. And it was a lot of vegan and vegetarian crap. And it was so many hours. The school was 640 hours, but I did as many hours in private tutoring. So I just, and I wasn't taking care of my health from that perspective, nor was I really exercising, which is my love. And so what had happened is near when I had to graduate in 2017, and at this point I was 59, I was experiencing from what seemingly felt like coming from nowhere, these spasms within my gut that literally knocked me to the floor. I had no control over it. They would take over my body and I would just plop down. But all I have to tell you, Jane, at that point, I was like, I'm graduating and I'm getting my license. And if this is any big deal, I've got to take care of these things first. So I got licensed in the day before Thanksgiving in 2017. And shortly thereafter, I saw a doctor. And the doctor was down the hall from me. She was staying there and she happened to have been a cancer surgeon. And so she kind of did an exam on me and she was like, I want you to get this test, this test, this test. And she wrote them down on a paper plate. And I actually saw my primary care physician with that paper plate. And he was angry because I was asking him for a lot of tests, but I got them. He did finally agree. And what came back was I had 8 masses in my body. 6 of them were endocrine system related. I also had, which included, and I want to say this because I think the viewers will understand this, I had 2 grapefruit size cysts sitting on my left ovary, but they also touched my sigmoid colon, which affected the process of voiding. And I'll spare you the details, but it was very brutal. And then I also had one that was the size of an orange on my right cyst. I had more testing done, and I had endometrial hyperplasia. Which is thickened uterine lining. And it is one of the cancer markers for uterine cancer. I had really bad vegan blood work. I mean, it was bad. It was low calcium. low vitamin D3, low B12, high homocysteine, low protein, all, at one time. And I also was diagnosed with the osteoporosis of a 90-year-old and subclinical hypothyroid. This was all at one shot. And I was by myself, as many women are. And when they go to the doctor, and I just got handed all these diagnoses. But I want to say that when I was in school in 2016, we were learning how to take blood pressure. And so my fellow classmate took my blood pressure. Now, normally, I was very smug about this. Normally, I was like, I'm poo-poo. I always have low blood pressure all the time. It's low. Well, it wasn't. However, I was like, continued to be smug with, well, she's just a student. I've taken this before because of my profession in fitness. I asked the professor. He took the blood pressure and he looked at me and he said, you got high blood pressure. And it was immediate. I stopped the vegan crap then. So I want to date it back here to 2016, where the vegan garbage left. The vegetarian was out. I went back to plant-based, plant-exclusive, like that. It was all I had to hear. So I started to embrace a little exercise then. But when I got these diagnoses, and I was like, okay, I know what I have to do. I have to seek the advice of others outside of the medical community. Now, being in fitness as a personal trainer and working with my demographic, I say my demographic because I'm 66 now. When I was 30, I began with older adults, and that has always been my career. And I was like, you have to get cleared to return to weightlifting. And so I found Chef AJ online. I want to say around 2017, at that same year of graduating. And with Chef AJ, I gravitated towards SOFAs free. That's salt, oil, flour, alcohol, and sugar free. Now, for a lot of people, this seems restrictive. To me, it was freedom. The reason why it was freedom is because I returned to really what were my roots. Decades ago, I was a raw vegan. And so for me, the simpler the food, the better. And through Chef AJ, I discovered Dr. Frank Sabatino. And in 2019, it was a really bad year for what was happening is the ovarian cysts were spasming. And that's what kept knocking me down to the ground. And I couldn't take it anymore. My gynecologist wanted me to have a hysterectomy. They were talking to me about possible thyroidectomy or being on thyroid medications for the rest of my life. And I was like, no. I had always known that if I can't do this on my own, I'm going to need to try water fasting. And Dr. Sabatino was on there talking about water fasting. And I'm just listening to him going, who is this guy? And he's awesome. And however, when he said where he was located, I was like, that's my doctor. That's it. Because he was only a 70-mile drive from me. I immediately contacted him, set up to go for a 10-day water fast, which is a 16-day process. It's a couple of days of juicing. Then you go into the water fasting, and then you lead into the refeeding. And this is all he's medically supervising me the whole time.
Can I just interrupt you, Tick?
Please.
Because I think it's really important that people don't just go, oh, I'll do a 10-day water fast.
No. So let me just emphasize.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something very quickly here. My second day, I went into seizures. It was just my second day. Now, I'd done 3-4-day water fasts decades ago on my own. Do not get cocky about it. Do not get smug because you do not know what's going to happen. Dr. Sabatino, and he was like, I don't know if we can even have you continue on. And I was like, please, let me try it. So we did, and it turned out to be incredibly successful, but do not do this on your own. And I'm really sorry. There's so many people out there right now talking about water fasting very lightly, and I'm going to work out during it. No, no, no. This is the time for rest and recovery. So 1 week to the day when I returned from all of that, I went for a transvaginal ultrasound, and it came back with I no longer had endometrial hyperplasia. The cyst on the right was gone. I'm very big about a clean environment. All of the blood work didn't just come back normal, it came back great. And I no longer had osteoporosis. I was downgraded to osteopenia. Now, let me say, this is not an easy thing to do. It was a 3.5-year process for me. Now, I was 60 when I got all these diagnoses. So by 63 and a half, I no longer had osteoporosis. I call it age-appropriate osteopenia because it is normal for women as we age to lose estrogen, and this will then affect our bone density. But it doesn't mean I'm cocky about it. I continue to weightlift. I create all kinds of workout programs online for the demographic. And that's how I have to keep doing it. Otherwise, I am very aware that osteoporosis could be in my future again if I don't keep weightlifting and eating the way I'm eating. Every one of my Western doctors were absolutely perplexed by me, but every single one of them said, I'm writing in your chart, keep doing what you're doing because we don't see these kind of results. And really, Jane, there's no way to determine, well, what percentage of the healing came from weightlifting and what percentage came from the food. I can only tell you that out of everything in my life, the two biggest factors that changed were the weightlifting and the sofas free. And for cardio, I also did and do rebounding. I just did 65 minutes today on the rebounder. And it's super important to adhere to the 6 pillars of lifestyle medicine, right? They're very simple. And that's what I endeavor to do, some aspects of them every day in my life.
I think one of the really important ones is actually having a sense of purpose, being part of a community. And I
Right.
think your work with the senior community actually gives you that, your desire to influence how people live, how other people live, to show them that they don't have to, assume that as they get older, they're going to get osteoporosis, they're going to need medication and so on. Yeah.
Right.
And
Exactly.
so it's that sense of purpose, that feeling like I want to get up in the morning, I want to be healthy and well so I can go out there and make a difference in the world.
Yes, it is having a purpose. And I am driven because another reason why I'm driven, Jane, is because how I was treated in this whole process. Because my stuff actually dates back to when I was around 30. So, what I'd like to share with your viewers is that around 1991, I had problems with eating disorder. And I abused food in every which way you can think of. They had kind of different terminology back then. They had bulimia, anorexia. I got diagnosed with something called back then bulimorexia. I was abusing exercise, but it was also on the heels of my marriage falling apart. I got married in 89, but knew by 1990, this is not going to work. And I was an addict when it came to food. And it was binging, purging. I took Epicac to just vomit. I wanted to go to a rehab. I knew I needed serious help. I was really desperate for help, but real help that I could resonate with. And in the yoga journal, I found an ad for a place called 3HO in Arizona. I don't remember if it was Tucson or whichever city. I really don't
Mhm.
know. Phoenix, it doesn't matter. It was a farm. and it was for 30 days, and it was for all addicts. Now, here's the interesting parts of this that influenced me to this day on my work. It was the first time I got introduced to yoga therapy, because what this was a rehab run by MDs and RNs who were all yoga Sikhs. And they were all following the Kundalini line of yoga, not Hatha yoga. And the brilliance of Kundalini yoga is that it goes after the endocrine system. So we're going to pay attention to that for later in life here, how this has helped me, right? And it just kind of wrings out your glands. And we had to do I think it was 2 or 3 classes a day in the heat of the barn, no air conditioner. So it was like you're in Arizona. It was February, where in the morning it was 25 degrees. In the afternoon, it was 75 degrees. In the evening, it was 18 or whatever it got down to. But it was hot, sweaty yoga. I also got introduced to the concept of massage therapy, and which I am today. I am a licensed massage therapist. The food we ate was vegetarian or vegan. We were not given any drugs. We were given personalized herbal protocols, and we were required to attend the on-site 12-step meetings. So to this day, it profoundly affected me. They were way ahead of the curve. This was like 91 or 92. This way ahead of the curve. And then shortly after that, I got diagnosed with what they used to call manic depression. And it was a diagnosis that the actress Patty Duke made famous at the time when she got diagnosed. I got put on the medication that she was on, lithium. Now, it was for 2 years I was on that medication. However, I got cycled on and off for the next 25 to 28 years on every conceivable psychotropic drug under the diagnosis of bipolar. And what happened was, when I was in massage therapy school, I started having some eye issues. And that's when I started then, of course, as I mentioned, having the spasms and stuff. And a fellow classmate said to me, "Do you ever think it's those meds, side effects?" And I started looking up the medications, the side effects. And I was like, and so though I was under a doctor's care, and I'll be frank with your audience, I was seeing a psychiatrist. I'm going to reveal something here. I'm going to tell your audience, don't do this. Don't do what I did. I weaned myself off the drugs. I was less than forthcoming with the doctor. It took me 2.5 years to get off of them. And I kept going with the weightlifting, and I kept going with the exercise, because I knew between the food and the exercise that this was going to help me with a calm, stable brain. Well, I've been off those drugs now for quite a long time. I've been drug-free. What am I doing? I think I'm going on my 7th or 8th year drug-free. And again, it was extremely difficult because I had withdrawals, but then I was embracing other modalities as well. I continue to do daily infrared saunas and just sweat everything out, just sweat it out and keep going with the exercise, because now the studies are showing that strength training in particular is outstanding for people who experience different variations of depression, and in fact could be even more helpful than drugs. So my instinct was right, but I'm never going to tell you to do what I did. It was tough. And again, I'm alone. And I really had to, there was something that drove me, Jane, deep inside of me that knew you got to get off all this stuff, because it wrecked my sleeping pattern. It never helped me. That's why I was put on it in the first place, to help me with sleep. never helped me. But it was the diet and the lifestyle that absolutely allowed me to stay on track. And it's really been not easy, but I've been having a blast with it. I have a lot of fun because my feeling is whatever decision you make in life, go for it. Just go for it. Enjoy the process. And that's where I'm at.
It's fantastic. I mean, it's been a really, really tough journey for you. And you've come out of it with this positive attitude. And I think
Thank
healing
you.
is really very much part of your life. It's
Oh, it
not
is.
it's not like something you do when you need it. It's not like, oh, I'm putting on a bit of weight, so now I need to do some exercise and watch what I'm eating. Or, oh, I'm feeling a bit unsteady on my legs, so maybe I ought to do a bit of exercise. It's woven into the fabric of your life, I think.
Oh, it is. It absolutely is. It's very interesting how you put this to me. Not a lot of people have said this to me, but it is something, if I'm very angry and Italian from Brooklyn, Aries, it's 0 to 60 like that. Okay. So I'll lift weights and I'll be like, "Rah, rah, rah." And by the time I'm done with it, or I'll do some stronger yoga, or maybe even gentle, light, restorative yoga, or I'm jumping on the rebound. When the session is over, the fight's out of me. It's totally knocked right out of me. I'm like, what was I so pissed off about? I don't even know. Yeah, it's like, you better know thyself, right?
Yeah.
You just really need to know yourself. And I think too, Jane, that when you have people supporting you, community, what you brought up, doing things like this, right? And being a part of different platforms. I mean, I'm a member of several platforms, but I'm also very honored to be a video provider to several whole food plant-based platforms that are indeed helping people with many health issues to transition from the standard American diet to whole food plant-based and appreciate and understand the value of strength training in the process. So you can only imagine for me what it is like when I'm presenting live for, let's say, Feel Fabulous Over 40, one of the platforms, and we do live Zooms once a month, and I can see the participants in the gallery. Now, mind you, I joined that. Originally, I wasn't doing any of this online with my work. And it was Phil Fabulous, the producer, Tobias Wyhofen, who said, we'd like you to work for us. We think you'd be a fit because you know everybody. And it's true. To see them online with me, some of them are bedridden and they're in their bed lifting weights because they're working that upper body if they can't work the lower body. Some people are chair bound. It could be a wheelchair or just because of health must be in a chair all day. And they're using the chair. We teach them how to use the chair as an exercise tool, not as the enemy. I've had students online with oxygen tanks, lifting weights. These are the people who will go to any extreme to feel better.
Yeah.
And to have some little sense of control over their life, because the medical community, some are trying to say, you're a victim. You can only be helped by a pill or an operation.
Yeah.
There are
I mean,
choices.
we could go on talking forever.
Yeah, we could. We could.
But we need to limit it. So you have a website, I think. Do you do Instagram?
Yes.
What else? Tell us about how people can
reach
connect
me
with you. Yeah.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. Well, the website, I do virtual personal training for older adults, and I also do virtual opposite end of the spectrum, prenatal yoga and hatha yoga. And also the work does include chair exercise and chair yoga for those that it applies. So if you want to work with me privately or just simply reach out, you can reach me by way of the contact form on my website. And that's boomerandbeyondwellness.com. I'll repeat it for you, boomerandbeyondwellness.com. And with that same handle, I'm on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and I have a YouTube channel by the name And the entire channel is dedicated to those with chronic concerns. So I have a whole separate playlist, so to speak, or a series, I'll call it, of Have It Your Way workouts where people can come and learn about one exercise at a time. Because if you have a chronic concern, yes, I know that you're afraid to work out and maybe you've gotten injured. But here you can come and learn one exercise at a time, go at your pace, and you pick and choose what works for you. Or conversely, there are full workouts there. It's all free. And I would love for you to subscribe. And I'm going to be starting a new newsletter, a free one. So if you'd like to subscribe to that as well, that would be just awesome. And that's on the website as well.
Okay. And I'm going to put all those links in the video description so people can easily find them and connect with you. So
thank you. That's very generous.
I want to thank you very much. I've loved talking to you. You're a real inspiration and a real example of how you can live in a positive way, even as you get older.
That's right.
Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Jane. I appreciate this.